and welcome to episode 52 of the Tea and Possibilities podcast. I am Nikki and this is a podcast all about knitting, crochet and making all the things here in northwest London. You can find me on Instagram at hippie_Nikki. I'm Nikki Hippie on Ravelry, and if you search for Tea and Possibilities under the groups tab, you will find our group right there. I'm going to have a little bit of an experiment with the group for the next few episodes, next couple of months or so, and I'm going to put an episode thread up in the group, and then if there's anything you want to chat about and discuss, you can do it straight there in the episode thread rather than in the comments. That way, if there's any particular questions or any discussions or chats we want to have, we can have them in a dedicated episode thread. So I'm going to see how that goes, and it might be an ongoing thing if it works really well, but if it's better just to have the comments down below, that's where we'll leave it. I will link to the episode thread along with everything else I mention in the quick links just in the box below. And as always, if you would like to see full show notes, I will link to those below as well. I always like to kick off every episode by saying a massive thank you. If you are a new viewer, welcome. Thank you so much for giving the podcast a shot. I really do appreciate it when there are so many other brilliant ones out there. And an extra special thank you to my returning viewers because I have been away for a while, so thank you for coming back and thank you for your patience. And of course, this is the very first episode of 2019, so Happy New Year, everybody. I hope you had a fantastic Christmas. I hope your New Year was brilliant, and I wish you all the very best for 2019. Today's tea is actually in a new mug. I don't think you've seen this one before. I love this mug. I am at my mum's, and this is the mug I always have at my mum's. This is the one that lives in the cupboard here, and I like it because it's about the same size as a hot tub, and I love a big cup of tea. I have I think the mug that I have at work is about a litre, or it's probably not a litre, it's probably nothing like that, but it looks massive and it's loads bigger than everyone else's. So I am known for liking a big mug because then you can, you know, hold it and keep your hands warm and get more tea. But today's tea is actually Lemon and Ginger by Tea Pigs, and long-term viewers will know that usually I have lemon and ginger if I'm feeling a bit under the weather, and usually I use real lemon, real ginger, real honey. But this is just lemon and ginger, and this is a Tea Pigs blend. And it's not one I would have bought before because I usually make it myself from scratch. But this was a gift and it is delicious. I really enjoy it. And I have been, touch wood, really lucky and not got sick this winter. I think I had a cold back in November. I think that was a lot more to do with burning the candle at both ends than anything else. But so far, so good. So I've just been enjoying this for the flavour, really. It's really refreshing, really warming. And this is going to sound a bit weird, but I really like how Tea Pigs tea bags look. That's weird, isn't it? But they're quite pretty because they're this little pyramid bag, and I don't think they're paper. I'm not quite sure what they're made of. But you can see like the little bits of like dried lemon in there, and it's just a pretty thing to enjoy looking at while the kettle boils. So there we go. That I'm so into tea, I like looking at tea bags. As I alluded to in my thank you to my returning viewers, I have been away for a little while. I think the last episode I did was towards the end of October, potentially the beginning of November. And for personal reasons, I had to take some time away from the podcast. I just didn't have the time or the headspace to do it. I will be giving a little bit of a life update in Knit and Natter, so if you are interested, you can stick around for that, and I will be, as I say, giving a little bit of an update. But let's face it, I know what you're really here for. You're here for the knitting, you're here for the crochet, you're here for the making. So let's move on to Whipped Up. I usually like to kick off with faux on the very rare occasion that I have them. Just not the most finishy of knitters, but unfortunately this episode I have a faux, but I don't have it here with me. It has already been gifted. I will do my best to insert a picture somewhere on screen, but they are the birthday socks that I was knitting. They were knit out of West Yorkshire Spinners. Got it right first time there, did you see that? Out of their signature 4-ply in the Country Birds colourway, and I did them in the mallard, which is a really beautiful stripe that I just thought was gorgeous and was very potato chippy, as they say on the Knitmore Girls, and I just wanted to keep going to the next stripe. And I also used a contrast colour in their signature 4-ply, which was the nutmeg colourway. And I just thought they turned out so beautifully. I am happier with these socks than I am with any other pair that I have made. Partly it's the beautiful yarn. I do love West Yorkshire spinners. I have quite a lot of it. I have 3 skeins that are just Christmas skeins, and I have their local yarn store day skein as well, so I want to get all of those cast on fairly soon. Probably not all at once, but I do want to get working on them soon. But one thing I loved about them was the fact that because it was stripes, it meant I could make them pretty much exactly matching, because I could just line the stripes up and I didn't have to keep measuring on the second sock. I could just go, okay, I do this many stripes, which was great, and I loved it. But one of the things I really loved about the look of this finished sock is the contrast. This is my first contrast cuff heel and toe, and I am a convert. They are brilliant. They look so polished, so finished. They just look gorgeous, and I think going forward I'm going to be doing a lot more stripy socking in my life in the future. I do need to have a little rejig of my stash. I am attempting to knit out stash a little bit more at the beginning of this year, more on that later. So I do have to have a look at my stash and see where I've got some solids that I can use for that, because I don't want to have to buy a load of solid colours every time I want to do a new sock. So I want to make sure I've got a good library of neutrals for that. So yeah, I am really happy with the socks. There are a few little bits that I think I could have done better. My picking up when I do the heel is not as good as it could be, but it is getting better every time. So the solution to that is just practice. I did watch a recent Bakery Bears episode. I think it was the most recent one, but I can't remember. But anyway, Kay was talking about how she is going to release a pattern with lots of hints and tips for getting the most polished sock. So getting a jogless join on the cuff, her particular way of doing heels and picking up. And I will definitely be getting that, because I am a sock knitter. This is who I am now. For anyone who has watched this podcast from the beginning, you will know that socks were my absolute nemesis for the longest time. And now look at me. I can't stop knitting them. I love knitting them. They're so handy to have for on the way to work, watching TV, going to the cinema. It's fantastic, and I absolutely love it. And there we go, I'm a convert. Now when it comes to WIPs, there is something that I just always talk about pretty much every end of December, January, every new year. There are a couple of projects that make a bit of a return. That's right, gang, I am back on the blanket. I think I mentioned last episode, but if I didn't, let me just give you a bit of backstory, that this was the second year where Katie and Amy and I did an advent swap. So through the year we collect 24 mini skeins, so leftovers from our projects and things like that, and we put them all aside, and then just before December we give 12 to each person. So I give 12 to Katie and 12 to Amy, which creates an advent calendar. And that's the time when I dig out my Cozy Squares blanket, and I put a lot of work into it. And I'm not going to lie to you, I haven't finished my advent calendar yet. I have been working on other projects like the socks. It's not one that I can carry around to work, where I do a little bit of knitting on my lunch break. So I haven't finished the advent calendar yet. But I am working on it, and I don't intend to put this down this year. So here we go. It is starting to look so much more blankety now, isn't it? Like I'm looking at the screen and I can't fit it. I can't fit it on. And it makes me so happy. It reminds me of Elmer, the patchwork elephant, and I love it. I loved that book when I was little. And this makes me so happy to work on, even though it's getting a tiny bit unwieldy. And I had a bit of ends weaving in kick last year and did all of the rows up to where I was. So I think when I finished the advent yarns, I am going to go in and weave in all the ends essentially, so that it's done and I don't have to have a massive amount to do when I finish the blanket. Now, my hope this year is, as I said, that I don't put this away. I want this to stay out and get one square a week. Now, that will be 52 squares in a year, plus the advent yarns, which I do try to work on pretty much exclusively throughout December. So I could have, if I do stick to that, I could have a really big chunk of this blanket done this year. And if I stick to it next year, I could have it done by next spring or summer. So that is what I'm hoping to do, because I cast this on in 2016. Yeah, I cast this on during the early days of the podcast, so 2016, and it's purely slow going because it's one I pick up and put down a lot. So I'll pick it up, work on it throughout December pretty much exclusively, and then not work on it all year round. So I want to kind of break that habit a little bit, because otherwise it's never going to be done. It will never get finished. So I want to work on it a little bit every week, and I think Sunday, you know, I can just put a little square on, and it's not gonna like affect the rest of my knitting time. You know, I'm not gonna only turn up and be like, guys, I've done a square on the blanket. That's all I've done this week. So I think what I will do is I will dedicate myself to 1 square a week. And I will, as I finish a row, that's when I'll show it to you, because obviously you're not going to be interested in me going like, this is the square I did this week, guys. This is the 1 square. So yeah, as I finish a row, I will show you kind of the progress, and you know, it will appear regularly then. I am almost certain that I said this last year. That last year I said, guys, I'm going to work on it once a week. I'm going to do 1 square a week, and it'll be almost finished. So famous last words. The other blanket I've been working on, I've got just back here, trying to look all pretty for the set for the podcast. And this is my, I won't unroll it actually, because you can probably see it better like this. This is my cozy stripes. So all of the leftovers from my squares go into a magic ball, which eventually gets crocheted into this. And over this Christmas, I worked on this when I was feeling not able to really concentrate on the cozy squares, which is like not the most complicated pattern at all, but I didn't want to have to think about decreasing or anything. I just wanted to be a bit mindless. So I worked on this while watching The Gruffalo on Christmas morning, for example. I love that. I watch it every Christmas. And this year I actually got to watch The Gruffalo's Child. And I finally finished the magic ball that was made out of all of the scraps from my cozy squares blanket. So this hasn't even seen this year's advent yarns, which is pretty terrible, but it's quite big. And this is half. This is it folded in half. And I love it. I think it's beautiful. I love how using the same yarns has a completely different effect because of the crochet over the knitting. I just love it. And also hanging out back here is my latest magic ball. So as I'm finishing a square, I am putting it straight into the magic ball, and then when I have finished all of my advent yarns, I will start crocheting with this. I'm not holding myself to too much of a deadline with the crochet blanket. It does make up quite a lot quicker than the cozy squares, so I'm just going to kind of pick this up and put it down as and when, although I would like to get through this fairly quickly. Now, I've said before on the podcast that I'm not really fussed about having big blanket projects on the go for 3 years now. Purely because they're big projects. I don't have a particular deadline for them. As I said, I don't need it for a wedding gift, or, you know, I'm not desperately cold in bed that I need a big knitted blanket. I mean, I did get very cold the other night, but I'm not going to attempt to finish either of them this winter. So I'm really happy to have them kind of chugging away in the background. But as I said, I'm very, very aware that I started the Cozy Squares blanket in 2016, and I would like to see it finished one day, I think. And it's such a big project that I know how great I would feel about finishing it. So I am dedicating myself to something that I think is doable. Is not going to matter massively if I miss a week, if I'm away, or I'm not feeling well, or I'm really into another project. It's not going to matter. But I would like to see more progress on it in the next year. And, you know, I'm already thinking about how I'm going to finish it. You know, am I going to put a border on it? Is it going to be a crochet or an I-cord? Things like that. I want to see it finished. I'm Now that it is starting to look so blankety, it wasn't, you know, before there was a moment where I thought I could just finish this and call it a scarf. But now that it's looking so blankety, I want it to be a blanket. Next up, and it is living in my Knitting Goddess bag that somebody gave me as a very kind gift at Edinburgh Yarn Festival last year. This makes me laugh all the time. I just love it. It's brilliant. And living in this bag is my very next sock project. I pretty much cast this on the moment that my West Yorkshire spinners did it again, first time. Who am I? Pretty much as soon as I cast those off and they were blocking, I cast this one on. And this is for me because, you know, I like making things for myself and I want to have a sock drawer. I want to have a hand knit sock drawer, and no one is going to appreciate that as much as I will. So I cast on this sock the very next day on my lunch break. I got all of the cuff done and then I put it away. I was very restrained because I wanted to make sure I had a load of stockinette to do when I went to the cinema. I went to see Stan and Ollie, and it was my very first time knitting throughout a film, and I did drop a stitch, but I corrected it once I got out into the, well, it wasn't daylight because it was the evening, but once I got some light, I corrected it and it was simple, so that was fine. I am a convert to cinema knitting. Side note, Stan and Ollie, bloomin' brilliant, so good, great film. I loved Laurel and Hardy growing up. I used to watch with my granddad, and it was really, really just such a wonderful film. It was quite moving, very poignant, and it was also wonderful for me to see Steve Coogan doing such a great job in such a straight film, because I think most people would know him for Alan Partridge, and actually he's a fantastic straight actor and I thought he did a brilliant job. However, his wife, Stan Laurel's wife, I think her name was Ida, how they were pronouncing it, Ida Laurel, just icon. She was an absolute icon, and that's going to be me this year. I want to be more Ida. Well, that was a tangent. So back to the sock. This is knit out of Rock and String Creations in the Seaside Treasure colourway, and I was very, very lucky to have this sent to me by Amy of Stranded Podcast and Stranded Dye Works as a gift. I think it was November last year, and I kept it on my bedside table because it was just so pretty, and I had another sock to finish, so I was trying to be really monogamous and good. And then as soon as I had finished those, I cast it on, and it is knitting up beautifully, and it's just rolled off the chair, but it's knitting up beautifully. This is my first time knitting a sock in indie dyed yarn, and it's just it's so nice. I love it so much, and I just think it's so pretty, and I can't wait to have them finished. I was thinking about knitting them in a Hermione's Everyday sock, because I do want to do some pattern sock this year, and Hermione is top of my list, but I needed cinema knitting. So I think what I'll do is I have a few spare sock knitting needles from some very kind people who sent them to me. Thank you, that was really, really lovely of you. So I think I'm going to have a vanilla sock always on the go, and I'm going to try and have a pattern sock always on the go as well. This is also my very first gobstopper ball, and it's amazing. I love gobstopper balls. You don't have to wind them. They're just there. I do have a Swift, but I don't have a ball winder. It started chewing up my yarn, so I got rid of it, and I haven't replaced it yet. So even though I do have a Swift, there is hand winding involved. So this, just grab and go, fantastic. I love it. It's just beautiful. And these are very Nikki colours, I think. Now the next thing I want to show you is a little bit of a shoulda, woulda, coulda. So I am going to Germany in February, and I decided that such a trip, because I've never been to Germany before, should be commemorated with a hat. I needed to take a hat to Germany that was special. And I have had Caswell Bay by Fiona Alice from the Take Heart book by Pom Pom Press. I've had that on my wish list for a very, very long time. And I thought, I'm going to knit that. I'm going to knit that hat to take to Germany. So that was the plan. I was going to get it cast on this week. I was going to have the ribbing done. You were going to be able to see it. Unfortunately, that did not happen. I went stash diving, and I found something that I bought ages and ages ago and forgot I had, which is this beautiful skein of Madeline Tosh. This is Merino DK, and it is in the Night Bloom colourway. And I'm fairly certain that I bought it to cast this hat on, because it is pretty much the same colour as the hat in the pattern, which I love. I think it will suit me quite well. I don't really know where to hold it, but I think that will suit me quite well. But yeah, so I wound that up and I sat down and I got out my ChowGoo interchangeable set, and I didn't have the right size needle. I have no idea where my 3.25 has gone. There's a space for it. The space is empty. I've checked all my current projects. It's not there. I don't know where it is. So had my interchangeable tips been there, I would be introducing you to a beautiful rib that is going to one day grow up into a Caswell Bay hat. As it stands, I am showing you a very beautiful yarn and telling you that hopefully my tips will be here today. I haven't heard the postman yet, so he could have just, you know, slipped it through the letterbox really quietly while I've been podcasting, but I don't think so. So if it's not here today, it'll be here Monday, and I will get this cast on ASAP and hopefully get it done in time to go to Germany. We hope. I am also probably going to cast on the Caswell Bay mitts as well. I think they're beautiful. I could do with a spare pair of mittens, and I quite like the idea of having a little bit of a matching set as an option. All of my kind of hat, scarf, gloves is all very mismatched at this point, and this year I definitely want to knit the Night Shift by Andrea Mowry, and I'm thinking if I can use the Night Bloom colourway as inspiration for the other colours in that, it would all tie together quite nicely without being too matchy-matchy. So that's kind of my plan there. The mitts are definitely not going to get done in time. I haven't got enough yarn for them anyway. I'd have to buy a new skein of Night Bloom, but they will be on my list. Potentially I might pick up another skein to actually knit those on the trip, but I think I'm probably, because we're only taking hand luggage, just to be on the safe side, I am going to take a vanilla sock on wooden interchangeables, and then if they demand to take my needles from me, I can just unscrew them and, I'll keep the sock. So that is my plan. At some point Caswell Bay mitts will happen, but first the hat needs to happen. While I'm on the subject of take heart, there's actually a pair of thigh-high socks. I think they're socks and not leg warmers, but they are gorgeous, and I am genuinely thinking that I need them in my life. I tend occasionally to wear shorts and quite thick woolly tights and boots in the winter. I don't know why. I don't get cold, so so I don't need to wear like thigh-high socks with them, but I think it'd be quite a cute look. It looks really cute in the pattern, so maybe they're going on the to knit list as well. I don't know yet. That's all I've been working on at the moment, but that is not all that is on the needles. I do have 2 sweaters on the needles. First up is the Pavement by Vera Valimaki, and the second one is the Kerrytown Pullover by Annie Lupton. Both of these have been on the needles for a significant amount of time, and I am determined to finish them. So I have decided that my main things that I'm working on, apart from my sock, which is like my grab and go run around knitting, I will be working pretty much exclusively on the Pavement in order to get that finished. It needs 2 sleeves. If I work on that diligently for the next couple of weeks, I'm gonna have a sweater. And I also need to work on the Kerrytown, where I have only done about 1 inch of the cable pattern of the front. I just need to sort my life out and sit down with it and work on it, because I desperately want these beautiful sweaters in my life, and what I actually want is for 2019 to be the year of the sweater. Particularly because something else I want to do this year is knit out of stash. I have said before, I don't have a particularly big stash. This is pretty much it. I don't know if you can see this kind of the top here of a 4-drawer plasticky standing thing, and I have 2 tubs in the bottom of my bookcase. That's it. That's all I've got, and in comparison to some people, that's not a big stash. However, I want to buy new things and I just don't have the space for it. So in order to have the space, I need to cast on those single skeins of sock yarn. I need to get through those sweater quantities of yarn. So I really, really want to make this year a productive and finishing year, because I'm so terrible at finishing. I really, really don't finish things. I get to about 3/4 of the way through a project and then my butterfly brain just goes whoop, there's something new. So I really want to get them off the needles. This is the plan, but I mean, I'm not going to hold myself to anything. If I want to cast something on desperately, I'm just going to do it. I'm not going to make myself miserable if I want to take a break from a project. But that's the hope, that's the plan, that's the New Year energy filling me up. There are a couple of things that I wanted to talk about now that I've shared my knitting, what else is on the needles, my hopes for this year, knitting wise. The first thing is unravel. I am like 99% going to unravel on the Saturday. I probably won't be there too long, as the person that I'm going with and we're going to make a little bit of a day of it, and we're going to go for a nice long walk as well as getting a pub lunch. But I will be there. I will be picking up some gift yarn and one sock set. That is all I'm allowed. One sock set. Because you can't go to a fibre festival and not come back with anything, right? So that is my plan. I will be at Unravel. As I said, I'm 99% sure that it will be on the Saturday, but obviously if that changes, I will let you know. I would love to see you. If you see me, I'm looking probably rather hot and bothered, because it will be really hot in there and really cold outside, and I'll be very warm. Do come over and say hello. It would be absolutely lovely to meet you. Now, a little bit of a change of pace. After sharing when I am potentially going to be at Unravel in February and what I'm going to buy there, I would like to talk about something a lot more serious. And that is about the discussion that has come up about diversity in our knitting community over the past couple of weeks. The knitting community, both online and off, has been one of the most warm and welcoming and supportive, friendly communities that I have ever encountered. As I said, online or in real life. However, over the last couple of weeks, I have learnt that, as with all things, may be influenced by what I look like. Now, there are going to be people watching this who will not like that I'm talking about this, because they don't feel that knitting podcasts should raise these things or should be in any way political. However, I've always been very open about the fact that I won't just stick to knitting, and that goes for all things. You know, I talk on here about books and TV and, you know, theatre and things that I've gone and done and seen that aren't necessarily to do with knitting. And sometimes that will include political things, feminist things, things that I believe in passionately. I want this podcast to be something that I can be proud of, and that means that I have to follow my conscience and not shy away from something just because it's uncomfortable and because I know some people won't like it. The very, very first thing that I want to say is that I hope that you feel welcome here no matter what. And I say that because I know this conversation has expanded now beyond race. It has included sexuality and gender and religion and neurodiversity. And I want you to know that you are welcome here. And if for any reason you think you're not, please do send me a DM on Instagram or Ravelry and let me know, because then I can work towards changing it, because I want to make sure that this is an inclusive space for everyone and that everybody, no matter what, feels welcome here. I've been doing a lot of reading over the past couple of weeks, and I cannot thank enough the people who have been sharing their experience, because I know that that is exhausting and you shouldn't have to do that and you shouldn't have to educate people, but I really, really do appreciate it, and it has sparked a journey in me that has led me off on my own. So I just want to say a massive thank you to everybody who shared their experience either on Instagram or on Ravelry, because that is fantastic and has opened my eyes, because the fact of the matter is I did not know, and that is on me. I did not know that there were people in this community who did not feel as welcomed as I do. Looking back, I can't quite believe I didn't make that connection, because I see it all the time. Living in a very diverse area of London, I see this all the time, and I hear stories from my friends about work, about being in shops, about everyday things where they experience some kind of racism or homophobia, various other things. And I'm shocked and disappointed in myself that I didn't make the connection here. However, now that I'm aware of it, I want to do something about it. I want to make sure that what I'm sharing on here reflects the true diversity of our community. I am a white, middle-class woman. I grew up in a very ethnically diverse area of northwest London. I'm living here again now, but that does not mean that I can speak for anybody else's experience. I cannot and should not speak of anybody else's experience. But what I can do is share other stories. So what does that look like for the podcast going forward? Well, I want to make sure that I am consuming mindfully. So at the moment, I tend to just buy books, watch TV shows, watch films that catch my eye. But what I want to do is dig a little bit deeper and make sure that I am reading a wide variety of authors, of protagonists, of experience. I want to make sure that I'm reading from people whose experience are very different to mine, and so I can read things that are going to enlighten me. I want to make sure that I'm not sharing things that only reflect my own experience. And sometimes that will be, you know, a great book in which it happens to be homosexual romance, maybe. Another time it might be a fantastic book I read about challenging racism in our society. This is what I want to do. I want to share things that will hopefully spark your interest and you can go away and read them, because I feel like I have a platform, small though it may be, and this is an opportunity for me to share. Something else I'm doing is really opening up my Instagram feed. I am finding new people to follow, and I am looking to make sure that I'm following designers and dyers who aren't just white middle class women like me, because I want to make sure that what I'm sharing is as ethnically diverse as the community that we all exist in and this community that we love. I would really appreciate if you know of any designers who are not as well known as that you feel they should be, please let me know. If you know of any dyers, again, who are not as well known as they should be, please let me know. I'm not currently in the market to be buying any more patterns and yarn. As I said, I'm trying to knit out of stash. But what I want to make sure is that when I come to spend my money, I've got a wider pool of people and talent and amazing yarn and patterns to draw from. I know that there are going to be people who don't like that I have talked about this, and I'm not going to apologise for it, for the simple reason that this is something I have thought about a lot, and it's something that I cannot in all conscience not talk about. And I have a platform, small though it may be, and therefore I feel I have a duty to ensure that everybody else in this community and everybody coming into this community has as wonderful experience as I have had, experiences the full warmth and openness and friendliness of this community. And if I can do that in any small way, any big way, I want to do it. And it's also something that I'm excited about, because I love reading and watching things that is sharing a world with me that is not familiar, an experience that is not my own, and that is something that I love and I want to do more of anyway. So this to me is a fantastic opportunity to diversify everything that I'm engaging with and then share it with you. Now, as I said, I want to do as much as I possibly can, so if you know of any dyers or designers or films, TV, books that you think I would love and I would enjoy, please do let me know about it. I will look them up, I will check them out, and they will probably make an appearance on Here Be Spoilers in the future. If you have any ideas of how I could do more, if there's something if there's something glaring that I'm completely missing here, please do let me know. And as always, my inbox is open, so please do send me a DM on Ravelry or Instagram to let me know, hey, your community is not as inclusive as it could be for this reason. And I will do everything that I can to ensure that every single person feels welcome in this little online space that I have created, because that is incredibly important to me. I'm really looking forward to hearing from you, and I'm looking forward to making Tea and Possibilities as open and as welcoming a space as I possibly can. And I'm looking forward to sharing more stuff with you. I'm looking forward to having really interesting conversations and just learning more and opening my own eyes, because I see now that I was just, where I was looking at other things, I was completely missing the issues on our own community's doorstep, and that is not something that I intend to miss ever again. As I said, this is going to be a little bit of a life update here, so there will be no knitting. So if you're only here for the knitting, this is probably not going to be for you, and I will see you in the next episode, and I hope you have a lovely couple of weeks. However, if you are curious about where I've been for the past couple of months, stick around, pour yourself another cup of tea. Towards the end of last year, I stopped podcasting. I also came off Instagram for about a month or maybe 6 weeks, and there was a reason for that. Long-term viewers will know that I have been in a relationship for quite a long while with Rich, and unfortunately at the end of last year we decided to bring that relationship to an end. We remain on very amicable terms, we are still friends. It was as amicable as these things can be. However, a breakup is a big thing, and it is also a logistical nightmare. So I had to move back home. I did a lot of furniture buying and building and settling back in to living back home with my family. And I also just wanted to make sure my head was in the right space before I came back. And as you can probably see, it is. So that's kind of the big change of life news. However, one of the big reasons why I probably look quite happy and cheerful is that I have started seeing somebody else. It was entirely unplanned, as I think these things often are. You tend to find something exactly when you're not looking for it. And this person is very special, and they must be, because I'm already planning to knit them something. So I think that's when you know, isn't it? If you're actually willing to knit something for somebody, they must be pretty special. They're probably a keeper. So that's that. That's the big life update. You will be seeing this background and hearing Northwest London a little bit more often now. But something else I wanted to share was the fact that 2018 was a tricky year. I changed jobs, I had a health scare, and then obviously towards the end of the year my long-term relationship ended, and a new one started. And I didn't really get much podcasting done last year. I had really big hopes for the podcast. I wanted to start other videos, and because life got in the way, I had to focus my attention elsewhere, and it just didn't happen. However, I have still been thinking about all the things I want to do with this channel, and this is the year to do it, guys. I want to get back to a super regular podcast schedule. I want to be here every other week, unless I go on, some fabulous holiday or something, but I want to be here pretty much every other week, and I want to start sharing other videos. I love knitting, I love yarn, I love all that good stuff, but I also love bullet journaling and period dramas and ranting about both. So I would really love to start sharing those as videos. They won't be within the podcast because I'm aware that there are some people who won't be interested in that. So yeah, hopefully the podcast will be a lot more regular in the future. I'm hoping to share a lot more with you in the podcast, particularly with regards to viewing and reading and listening, because we're usually listening to something or reading something or watching something when we're knitting. So I love sharing that, and I love hearing other podcasters talk about it, because my Amazon wish list for my Kindle is pretty long and my watch list is pretty long. But I love getting recommendations, so I love sharing them as well. But I will also, as I said, be producing other videos that are non-knitting content. So there we go. It's been a pretty juicy episode for kicking off 2019 and my big comeback. I am really looking forward to seeing you again in a couple of weeks. Hopefully I will have a hat cast on by then, but who knows? I still haven't heard the postie. Cross your fingers for me. I hope you have the most brilliant 2019, and I will see you in a couple of weeks for another cup of tea. Take care. Bye. I don't feel cold. I think it must be this jumper, but apparently it's cold in here. Special effects, guys.